This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. So today's topic, as you can see, is Happy New Year, and we're going to be discussing a number of issues. One issue is our celebrating the secular New Year. What is our approach meant to be towards that? And then the fact that we use the secular New Year, even on our tombstones, we list the dates, and often I always tell people the three things that we need to have on the tombstone is the name in Hebrew, the Hebrew date of passing, and the letters Taf Nun Tzadik Bet Hey that the soul should be bound up at Tzorah Chaim. Besides that, I say you can do as you wish, and most people do put on the secular year that they were born and the person passed. We also use the secular year when we're writing checks, right? For the next few days, we're all going to make mistakes in our checks. We're all going to be writing 2020, even though we're happy to leave that behind. Our checks, will hold on to it for the first couple of days at least, until we get used to writing 2021. So 2021, it's the year 2021 from what? From what? From seemingly, we'll discuss it, the birth of the Christian Messiah. So why should we be giving that any credence? Right? I, tongue-in-cheek, refer to BC and B, right? Instead of saying CE and BC, so we Jews say BCE, before the common era, and I pronounce it before the common error, right? Not ERA, but ERROR, right? But whenever when we speak about the year being 5781, it means from creation. So whenever we use that year, we're giving our nod to our belief in God as a creator of the universe. And we've had other lunch and learns about how we match our 5781 with the billions of years that science has dated the universe, the world. Right? That's not for today. But by using the year 5781, we are showing our belief in God as a creator. What message are we giving by using the year 2020, 2021? Is that giving a message that we clearly don't want to give? Is it giving that message? Are we allowed? Are we allowed to utilize that? Celebrating the new year, how are we supposed to view that? So let us begin with our first source, which is the Babylonian Talmud, the Gemara in Avodah Zarah, which says, we have it both in Hebrew and in English, right? For those who are not so familiar with the Gemara, do you see when I move my cursor around?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. So in the middle here, this is the actual Talmud. On the inside column, it's always Rashi commentary. On the outside column is the Tosafot. So in reading the Gemara, we always go for that inside, the middle piece over there. And the tractate of Avodah Zarah, which means idolatry, begins Lifnei Eidehen Shel Ovdei Kochavim, prior to the festivals, the holidays of the idolaters, Shloshi Yomim, starting 3 days before, Asur Laseit V'Lateti Mahen. It's prohibited to do any business with them. Lahashilan, to lend them anything. Vilishol Mehen, or to borrow from them. Lahalvotan, to lend them money. Vililvot, or to borrow money from them. Liporan, to pay back a loan. Vilifroa mehen. And it's also prohibited to take payments from them. Why? Why does the Mishnah tell us that we have to stop 3 days before their holidays from doing any sort of business dealings with them? Rashi explains on the inside column where the cursor is, the kulu mishum, all of this is because something that we should learn a lesson from these idolaters. Mishum de'azil umodel avodas kochavim v'yomedo. If they had a good business deal, what will they do? They'll go and they'll thank their idolatry on that holiday, right? So if they're going to thank their idolatry, we should certainly be thanking God when things are going well. But you don't want to do business with them because they'll go thank God for this thank their idolatry for this good business deal. We don't want to be the ones who are inspiring them to become closer to their idolatry. And therefore, we don't want to do business with them. We don't want to lend to them, thank God I got this loan. Lish'ol mehen, or to borrow from them. I'm in a position that this person needs to borrow from me, whether it's an object or it's money. Leparan, to pay them back their loans, or lifroa mehen, or to take payment from them. Rabbi Yehuda disagrees and says, nifroa mehen, we can collect payment from them. Why? When they have to pay back this large amount of money, it causes them anguish. They're not going to go and thank their idolatry. It's a painful thing. Amrulo, they said back, even though he might be troubled now, but he's going to feel good afterwards. That's how we feel. We pay back a loan, we pay back money that we owe. It might be hard to write that check, but then we feel good afterwards. Someone just recently wrote to me that writing big checks that he owes, he compares it to kidney stones. They're hard to pass, but it feels good afterwards. So the Chachamim said that we shouldn't take payment, even though initially it might be painful for them. But afterwards they feel good, and they're going to go and praise their Lord. They're going to thank their idolatry, and therefore we don't want to be the ones who will do that. Now, we're not going to go into it so much, but Tosfos points out, according, if you see where my cursor is, so he said, well, B'chol shavua yom echad yesh lahem. Every Sunday is a holiday. Every Sunday they celebrate as a holiday. So how do we ever do business with them? And he mentions a concept where we'll see later on. And the concept is Mishum Eva. We don't want to cause animosity. We need to get along well with our Gentile neighbors. Okay. How does this work down when it comes to halacha? Okay. There are many that say when the Gemara discusses idolaters, we're not talking about our, for the most part, very fine, cordial, respectful, Gentile neighbors. On the contrary, we look at other faith communities as partners. We're all part of the faith community, no matter what religion a person has. We view that in a favorable manner. So the Shulchan Aruch, the code of Jewish law, in Yoredeya 148, the first number 1 is, he starts to get into the details. Shlosha Yamim, I apologize, this is not available. I could not find this in English, so I'll read it in Hebrew and translate, of course. 3 days before the Shulchan Aruch, this is being written in by Rav Yosef Karo, 16th century in Tzfat. Started off in Spain, ended up in Tzfat in Israel. 3 days before their Chagam, before their holiday of the idolaters, Asr, it's prohibited, likach mehem, to buy from them, limkor lehem, to sell them, davra mitkayim, that's only something that is a lasting item, umutar limkor lehem, davar she'ena mitkayim, but you can sell them, some cucumbers, some tomatoes, things that's not going to be long lasting. That's not something that we go and praise the Lord. That's something that we go and we eat. Ad Yom Chagam, until the day of their holiday, Kigon Yerakot, V'tavshil, vegetables, cooked items. Also, where Asul Hashil, L'shol Havosan, to borrow, to, from, lend, etc. Then in 12, after going through 11 different halachot about this, Yesh Omrim, he says, there are those that say, She'ein kol dvarim elu amurim ela ba'otozman. All of this applied in those days. Aval bizman hazeh, but nowadays, einam bekiyim betiv elilim, they're not really proficient in idolatry. Lefikach, therefore, mutar laseit lateti mahem biyom chagam. Therefore, we can do business with them even on the day of their holiday. The Rama of Moshe Isulis, who wrote notes on the Shulchan Aruch, and he, Rav Moshe Isulis, was in Poland, Krakow. Those who came with us on our Poland-Israel trip, we visited the grave of the Rama of Rav Moshe Isulis. And there's a fascinating backstory over here that as Rav Yosef Karo in Tzfat is putting together his incredible work of all the Jewish law, the code of Jewish law, Rav Moshe Isulis, the Rama, was doing the same thing there in Krakow. And when Rav Yosef Karo sent Rav Moshe Isulis from Tzfat to Krakow his manuscript to look it over, the Rama realized, he's doing the same thing that I'm doing. And if he's going to publish and I'm going to publish, he's going to publish his that's mostly following the Sephardic customs. I'm going to publish mine, which is following the Ashkenazic customs. The vast majority is the same, but there are differences. If he publishes and I publish, the Jewish people, we split up into two groups, as if we're two nations, as if we have two Torahs. And therefore, he did not publish his. What he did, though, was he wrote notes on the Shulchan Aruch of Rav Yosef Karo. So our Shulchan Aruch has Rav Yosef Karo's writing and the notes added in by the Rama. And he'll let us know, and he'll say, and the minhag amongst Bnei Ashkenaz, a minhag, the custom amongst the Ashkenazim, is different. So he writes, Hagah, that's his notes, Ve'afilu notnim ha'ma'ot l'kohanim. Even if we give the money to their priests, Ein osim mehem tikrovot, onoi le'elilim, they don't use that to bring sacrifices or to adorn any idols. Rather, they use that for their general upkeep. Like Tosfot said, also there's an issue over here of ava, of animosity, if we're going to not be involved with them. Right? If we will separate ourselves from them during the day of their holiday. Now remember, the Shulchan Aruch in Tzfat didn't have to write all of this. The Rama did. He's in Krakow. Vanu shruyim beinayim. We live with them. Utzrichim laseit v'lateti mahem. We need to do business kol hashana, all year round. V'lachenim nichnas li'ir u'matza'am smeichim b'yom chagam. And therefore, if we go into their city and find them rejoicing in their holiday, yismachi mahem. We can rejoice along with them. Mishum Eva, lest there will be this animosity, this hatred toward us. And this is like the things we need to do in order to get along. Nevertheless, Baal Nefesh, a person should try, right? Try to not, right? If you have to go to the office Christmas party, you don't have to wear a red hat and dance around the tree, right? So you want to try to mute it if you have to go. If you don't have to go, so you don't go. V'chein im sholech doron. Now this is now quoting the Truma Tadeshen, and we'll see something about that in a moment. So too, if we're sending a doron, if we're sending a gift, lo v'kochavim, to a Gentile, Bizman Hazeh, B'yom sheyesh lahem siman, on a day that they have a set day, a siman, a sign, im yagia lahem doron b'chag hahu, that if they get a gift on that day, it's a good sign. Im efshlo, if it's possible, yishlach lo mi be'erev, send it the day before. And if you don't, yishlach b'chag atzmo, you could send it on that day itself. The Trumot Adeshen was about 100 years before the Rama. He lived in Vienna. And as we'll soon see when it comes to the Talmud also, that was censored. That was censored. Things had to be taken out by censors. The Christian censors censored things which they thought was offensive to them. The actual Trumot Adeshen is over here. She'elah Kuf Tzadikei. This is posed to him. The Kama Ayarot, in many cities, Noagim HaYehudim L'shloach Doranot. It's the custom of the Jews to send gifts L'komrim to the priests, L'shiltonim, and to the different rulers. B'yom Shmini Lanitel, on the 8th day of Nittel. Nittel is a term that we use for Christmas. The 8th day of Nittel comes out to New Year's. Now we know the 8th day is the day of a Brit Milah, of a circumcision. So if December 25th is the birth date of Jesus, if it is, then what is January 1? Mazel Tov. Right? It's the Brit. It is the circumcision. Not necessarily the thing that we want to be celebrating, right? Nevertheless, he writes, in many cities, the custom of the Jews is to send gift to the priests or to the rulers on the 8th day after Nittel, when the year now begins. Yesh chashash zehira b'davar olo. Do we need to be concerned or not? Right? And he writes back that the Nittel is the Nair Yar, the uncensored version. That's the censored version. The uncensored version refers to the 8th day after Nittel as Nair Yar. Right? For any Yiddish speakers, Nair, new, Yor, year. Right? A Yor site is the year, site, time, the time of year, the anniversary of the passing. See, he says that because we're living amongst them, and therefore we've got to maintain cordial relations, therefore we can send the gift. And he says, interestingly there, he says further that the Rama didn't quote, they view it as a good omen to receive things on the first day of the year, but that way it speaks well of the year that will unfold. They got that from us, of course, that on Rosh Hashanah, we have that sweet apple, we have the honey, we have all of these different simanim, signs, things that we have, that we want to start the year in a positive manner, and that way everything goes after Hatchalah, the beginning, and it will unfold in a positive way. Rav Moshe Feinstein, who the preeminent posek of the 20th century, so he writes, Ubadavar, once again, I have it in Hebrew, not in English, but bear with me. Ubadavar lasot eza simcha, when it comes to making a celebration, biyom eid shel hanachrim, on the holiday of the Gentiles, imhu mitzad emunatam, if it is a holiday that is based on their belief system, on their religion, if it is a religious holiday, in the kavanah machmashu yom eid, if you want to have your celebration on their Christmas, on their Easter, asur midina, right? We don't celebrate those days. V'below kavanah, and if it's not intended, but hey, everyone's off that day, it works out well. Nevertheless, yesh le'asum marat ha'ayin. We shouldn't do it because of the appearance that it gives off. However, su'udat mitzvah kamila pidin ben, if it is a time-based su'udah, it is a brit milah that takes place on the 8th day. It is pidin ben that takes place after the 30th day. So then yesh la'asot afil le'echelem. We're not going to push off a brit and say, don't do the circumcision on the 8th day, do it on the 9th day, so it shouldn't coincide with a non-Jewish holiday. The ain less or b'shvil maris ayin suda muchiyevet. When there's an obligatory meal that you're supposed to have, a nice festive meal along with the mitzvah of the circumcision, we're not going to push that off. Aval su'udat bar mitzvah. But if it's a suda of a bar mitzvah, which is not linked to one day in particular, tov lidchot, best to push it off until a different day. V'af nisu, and even a marriage, yesh likvo l'chatchila, ideally schedule it on a different day. Now, v'yom rishon mishana shalahem, Rav Moshe says, the first day of their new year, January 1st, v'chein, this is great. Who can read that? Thanksgiving, and so too on Thanksgiving, ein lesor midina. There's no reason not to have your simcha on those days. Why? Because they are not religious holidays. He's viewing New Year's and Thanksgiving not as religious holidays per se. Thanksgiving is a time to give thanks for the bounty that the United States has offered us. That's a good thing to do. That's a positive feeling that one is supposed to have. And New Year's, Yom Rishon Mashana, is the start of the calendar year. And therefore, one does not need to avoid planning a wedding on that date, planning a celebration, a 50th anniversary, whatever it might be on that date. Avabali nefesh, but those who are extra sensitized, they should try yesh lahachmir. They should take on this stringency and avoid it. So, what we have here is very interesting. Rav Moshe is not talking about celebrating New Year's. We have our New Year's. We have our Rosh Hashanah. We have our start of the year. Right? This is a calendar date. This is a calendar date of no real significance. And whereas on our Rosh Hashanah, we try to make reasonable kabbalot, things that we accept upon ourselves, right? The way it's done on New Year's, it's a bit of a joke, right? And it never really lasts. You know, my New Year's resolution was to lose 20 pounds. I'm only 25 pounds behind on my on what I was shooting for. That's how it ends up working over here, right? So it's not some. So on one hand, it's clearly not something that we should be celebrating. On the other hand, Rav Moshe lumps it together with Thanksgiving. And Thanksgiving is a secular holiday, and he puts it together with that. So it's certainly, not a big celebration, though I think some of us might be happy to kiss 2020 goodbye, right? But it doesn't look like it's going to be drastically different when we wake up tomorrow morning, right? Hopefully, moving in the right direction. But it's not like tomorrow morning, the virus decides that it's only a 2020 virus, and now it's going to decide to vacate. Right? I don't think anybody, with all of our conspiracy theories floating around, I don't think anybody is proposing that one. So, okay. How about actually using that date? We use it on tombstones. We use it when we're writing letters. We use it when we, on our ketubah, we don't. On a ketubah, a marriage contract, we use the Jewish date. We certainly use it on checks that we're writing. In Israel, you could use either the Hebrew date or you could use the English date, right? Here, though, right, and all of us know today's December 31st. We always know the Hebrew date. Anybody know what? We always know the English date. Anybody know what the Hebrew date is today?
16th of Tevet.
Impressive. Do you have a calendar in front of you, or did you know that offhand?
I just looked at the calendar.
Me too. Me too. That's how I knew. I looked at the calendar and I saw it's the 16th of Tevet, right? In Israel, you could write either one on your checks and it will be properly cashed. Here, if we were to write 16th of Tevet on our check, 5781, I don't think the bank will cash it. I think it will be sent back. So what is our approach when it comes to using all of these things? So let's take a look, first of all. Is this date an accurate date? Is this actually the birthday, the birth year of Jesus? And thereby, by our giving credence to it, are we bowing to that whole mindset, which we reject? So now, very interesting. I mentioned before that the Trumat HaDeshen was censored. There are also censors, Christian censors, who, when they weren't burning the Talmud and they were in a generous mood, they decided instead to just cut out parts that they found offensive, that they will soon see mistakenly thought that it was talking about Jesus, and therefore they removed it. Up top over here is the Gemara, the set of Gemara that I have in my office that I bought when I was a teenager. And this is not that it was still being censored when I was a teenager. I wasn't a teenager back in the 1700s, right? But that is the plates that are used in many of the productions of Gemaras even today. And you notice over here where I have a little arrow, and I have this, the Gemara says Lo Havi Dachik, and then it says Tanya, and then it says the Mishnah. In the uncensored Gemara, we have those same words, Lo Havi Dachik, the third line down, lo havidachik, and then we have Tanya over here. But this whole piece was removed. Why? Because some attribute it to Jesus. So let's take a look, okay? For time's sake, I'm going to read though in English. What was the incident with Rabbi Joshua ben Parachia when Yanai HaMelech put the rabbis to death? Yanai HaMelech killed the rabbis at that time. Shimon ben Shetach, one of the great top rabbis, was hid by his sister. And Rabbi Yisroel ben Parachia, he fled to Alexandria in Egypt. When there was peace, when it was safe now to return, Shimon ben Shetach sent this following cryptic message to Yoshua ben Parachia. He wrote, "From me, Jerusalem, the holy city, to thee, Alexandria in Egypt, O my sister, my husband dwells in my midst, and I am here desolate." Now we have this also, that during World War II, did Fred just tell us a story about this? About a letter that was sent, I think Fred Johnson, when he spoke
He said
about
a phone call.
on Kristallnacht, about Kristallnacht, told us, maybe someone else, I think it was Fred, told us about a letter that was sent about quoting from Esther, Megillat Esther,
did that.
letting them know, don't come back here. You don't want to return here. So very often we'd have to send cryptic messages in order to safeguard the sender and the receiver. Said, "Oh, my sister, my husband dwells in thy midst, and I'm here desolate." Meaning, my husband, Yeshua ben Parachia, the great sage, is dwelling over there in Alexandria, while I, Jerusalem, I'm here alone. And he understood that it was a message that it's safe to come back home. Rabbi Yeshua rose and came back and found himself in a certain inn where they paid him great respect. He said, "How beautiful is this achsania." Now, achsania, I have a note over here. The word means inn and also means female innkeeper. How beautiful is this achsania? He said, what a wonderful inn this is. Talking about the inn, talking about the accommodations, talking about the way that he was treated very well there. One of his disciples said to him, thinking that he was talking about the woman who was running the inn, my master, she wouldn't have won a beauty contest. Her eyes are narrow. Now, according to some, you see note number 2 here, according to some, it says here Yeshu. Yeshu is the Hebrew word for Jesus or Yeshua. He said back to the student, wicked person, such thoughts you occupy? You think I'm talking about how pretty the woman is? That's what you're thinking about? That's what's on your mind? He sent forth 100 horns and excommunicated him, right? Meaning 100 lashes. That's a way of saying he excommunicated him. The disciple came before on many occasions saying, receive me, right? Take me back under your wings. But he refused to notice him. One day, when the Rebbe was reciting the Shema, the disciple came before him. The Rebbe planned at that point to accept him and bring him back in. His intention was to receive him, and he made a sign to him with his hand, saying, meaning, I'm saying Shema now. I'm saying the Shema now. Wait, right? Now's not the time. Come back in a moment. But the disciple thought he was sending him away, dismissing him. So he went and set up a brick and worshipped it. Rabbi Yisroel then came to him and said, repent. He answered, I've received from you the teaching, whoever sins and cause others to sin is deprived of the power of doing teshuvah, of returning. A master has said, the disciple practiced magic and led Israel astray. Now, we'll soon see. Was this person Jesus or not? And we'll see how this applies to our discussion of the years. Some historians note some similarities between Yeshu and Jesus. Most notably, in one manuscript of the Talmud, it says here not that student, but it says Yeshu the Nitzri, which could be rendered with a little difficulty as Jesus the Nazarene. Okay. Now there are issues with that. And the author here brought 5 issues. Number 1, Yeshu lived about a century before Jesus. Let's come back to this, because this will then have to do with our dating system. Number 2, only one of the 4 distinct manuscripts have the title Hanotzri, which possibly means the Nazarene. None of the other manuscripts contain that title, which make it suspect as a later interpolation, as medieval commentaries suggest. Number 3, Notzri does not necessarily mean Nazarene. It is actually a biblical term from Jeremiah. Now, centuries later, that is the term that's used to refer to Christians, Notzrim. To this day, in Hebrew, Christians are referred to as Notzrim. However, this is well before that. Right? It could have been a term used to refer to many strong communities. The name Ben Netzar was used by the Talmud to refer to the famous chief of robbers. Okay? So there's no proof that this is actually him. The name Yeshu alone could have been common. We know the name Jesus was common. You have many, many baseball players, I'm sure many others also, who go by Jesus, right? And I knew a person in Israel, a common name in Israel is Mashiach. Mashiach, right? I knew a guy, Mashiach, right? His name was Mashiach. I mean, he actually was the pot scrubber at the yeshiva that I taught, which I found a little bit ironic, right? But Mashiach, and her parents named him Mashiach, right? Jesus, Yeshu, Yeshua, right? We know the name Jesus was common. Lastly, number 5, other than the name, nothing in the story fits anything we know about Jesus. Okay. Coming back to number 1, there are many who dispute, Jewish and non-Jewish historians, right? If this was Jesus, then he was not born in the year 0, or he is not born, let me say, 2020 years ago tomorrow, right? He was not born then, right? He lived well before the year 2021, counting back. And there are many that say that this is not necessarily really his birth date, his birth year. And therefore, it was a day that was pretty arbitrarily, correctly or incorrectly, chosen to follow. Therefore, right, and to add, right, atheists use this date. Atheists who deny any religions, any God, they use this date. So this date has become just a means of tracking time. And internationally, the Gregorian calendar, right? We discussed the different calendars before. When we discussed December 4th, 5th, we had our lunch and learn on that. The Gregorian calendar is used around the world. And that is, I believe, the common calendar. There's also a Jewish calendar. There's a Muslim calendar. There's a Chinese calendar. But when it comes to international usage, this is the calendar that is used without there being any religious intent whatsoever. When we talk about the year 2020 ending and 2021 beginning, right, we're not thinking about any religious connection. And therefore, the poskim of our day, Rav Avadi Yosef, the Tzitz Eliezer, Rav Auerbach, all say that there's no problem. And tombstones regularly of religious people will have the year of birth, the year of passing. We don't need to have it, but there's nothing. We need to have the Jewish date of passing. Besides that, we don't need to have, but there's nothing wrong in having. And we use that. And we use that. How about the months? And that's the last point I want to touch upon today. We have the verse in Exodus, the last of our sources here. This month, Nisan, the month that we left Egypt, is the beginning, the first of the months of the year for you. And that's how we have this strange dichotomy almost, that our Rosh Hashanah, our Jewish New Year, is on the first day of Tishrei, which is the 7th month. So we count years from Tishrei, but we count the months from Nisan. And the reason for that is we want to always, whenever we say, oh, it's the 5th month from when? Oh, from the Exodus from Egypt. We should always remember that formative event where we became a nation. So you're always supposed to count from then. So there are those that say, when writing a check, don't use a number. Don't use, for June 15th, don't write 6/15, because that's counting the months from January and not counting the months from Nisan. Rather, it's better to write June than to write 6. It's better to write December than to write 12. However, again, the poskim say that it's not an issue, because all the Torah is telling us is when we count, and interestingly enough, we don't use the numbers now. We use different names: Tishrei, Cheshvan, Kislev, Tevet, Shvat, Adar, Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, right? Those are the names that we use. And those are actually Babylonian names. And Ramban says the reason we use those Babylonian names is to remember our ascent from Babylon back to Israel for the Second Commonwealth. So just like we remember the exodus from Egypt leading us into Israel the first time, we also remember leaving Babylon and going back to Israel for the Second Commonwealth. But either way, it's not an issue, because these are solar months. These are solar months. They're not lunar months. So the commandment is, when we are counting our lunar months, we need to count from Nisan. And we do. That's number one. But when we're counting our solar months, right? Our solar months are 28, 30, 31 days. right? A lunar month is 29 and a half days. That's why our lunar calendar is either 29, 30, 29, 30 on the days of the month. So when counting solar months, that is not going to be an issue. So this Gemara is one of the Gemaras where some say, some feel that it's referring to Jesus. And because it's not overly complimentary, the censors removed it. In some of the Gemaras today, like the Gemara I have in my office, all this is missing. All of this was cut out over there. They cut it out. If it is referring to Jesus, then the years are certainly off. And 2021, the date tomorrow or today is not completing a full 2021 years since not really his birth, but since his Brit, since his circumcision, which is, like we said before, is 8 days after December 25th. It is well off. And even if it is on, we are not thinking about that. It's become a universal mode of tracking time and of having an understanding of what date each of us are talking about. And therefore, one can use it, does use it, even writing checks with the number of the months is not an issue. But in terms of a big celebration, like I said before, even though we're all happy to say goodbye to 2020, but tomorrow morning is not going to look all that different. We have our new year. We have our days of celebration. And this is a calendar date. It is simply a calendar date. But Rav Moshe did compare it to Thanksgiving, put in the same category over there. So if a person wants to, certainly out of Ava, so as to not cause any animosity, you're checking out of a grocery store today, you can say to I wish you a good year ahead. I wish you a happy new year. Someone says to us, we saw the Trumat Hadeshen, someone says to us, happy holidays, we can respond, happy holidays, right? I avoid saying Merry Christmas, but happy holidays, yeah, have a happy holiday. I want everyone to be happy. Today, tomorrow, holidays, non-holidays, let everyone be happy. And if it's a time where people feel this sense of camaraderie, of brotherhood and sisterhood, hey, let's build on that. Let's not shut that down. And let's try to get that going all year round. Okay, so happy new year? Not really. Happy. Let me wish everybody very, very happy. We should all be happy tonight, tomorrow, and all the days that follow after that. We should all be appreciative of the things that we have. We should all accept the challenges that come our way as challenges that are there for us to grow. And we should be happy, right? A person is supposed to be besimcha tamid. Always, always be happy. Like we say Thanksgiving, we're not supposed to feel gratitude one day of the year. We're supposed to feel gratitude every day of the year. We're not supposed to be happy one day of the year. We're supposed to be happy every day of the year. Okay, my friends. So I wish everybody a happy every day of the year to everybody. Okay? Anybody wants to undo your mic and speak, and more than welcome to. Once again, I don't see people, but
thank you, Rabbi. Have a good weekend.
Happy.
Oh, very, very important. So we're not having services right now. It's playing things very safe. The Shabbat, we're not going to be having services in person. So everyone needs to do their davening at home. Saturday night, those who do want to join, I had some computer problems last week. Hopefully it'll be a little bit smoother. Anybody wants to join Saturday night at 6 p.m.? I think. Let me double check that. Shabbos ends 5:34. Yes, so 6 p.m. at this go-to meeting, we'll have a little Havdalah get together, have my guitar, do a little singing together. So everybody's welcome to join us 6 p.m. this Saturday night. And next Thursday night, a wonderful presentation from Kalman Samuels, founder of an incredible organization called Shalva, which does amazing work for the disabled in Israel. A very, very inspiring story. I end up reading his book. I'll show you the book that night. Recommend those who want to get it from Amazon. Amazing book, really inspiring, amazing organization, and it really opens up our eyes to those who have some disabilities, right? I know politically correct, you have to say different. I'm not disabled, I'm differently abled. One of my students who became an excellent writer for the Wall Street Journal, has written many books, who was involved in a terrible accident and became disabled. See, he would wryly say, I'm not disabled, I'm differently abled. I have a different ability. I can get parking in front of any municipal building, and you can't. I'm differently abled, he would joke. Yeah. So, but to open up our eyes to those who often, when we look at them and they seem to be less, and to understand just how they're not less, and in many cases they are more. So it'll be a wonderful presentation, and I urge you all to join us. That's next Thursday night at 8:30. Okay, everybody.
Oh, wait.
A good one to all. Yes, Cheryl.
So, do you hear me okay?
I do.
Oh, good. So what's going on with like services now? Is there like certain amount of time before we can resume?
Right now, the plan is January 5th to be back in person. Okay, and please God, that will be the case. But we just wanted to see where the dust settles in these next 5 days before we come back in person. And well, please God, everyone's well, everyone's healthy, and then we will resume in person.
Do we have to be tested or
Okay, those who were in contact with the person who tested positive were informed, and if they were in close contact, according to CDC, which is within 6 feet for 15 minutes or more, then they should quarantine for 10 days and they should get tested. Yeah, but in terms of for us getting together at the shul, besides me and my office, I'm here with myself and I, right? But getting together with other people in the shul, so that we felt it was prudent to say, let's have 5 days and see where the dust settles. Okay, my friends, good seeing everybody.
Have
A
a
good one
happy
to all.
day, days.
Be well, everybody. Signing off now.